Hey, this is James Pelton, and I am live here. I'm at another Holiday Inn. Actually, not even sure what city we're in. So we're on a 5-week road trip, and working our way back up to Lincoln now. So it's been a lot of fun. But again, I miss my office and miss being home. So hopefully, it should be home 17th or 18th or so. But thank you for joining me here today. If you're in the audience, what we need you to do, as is the custom, please hit the like button as we're getting started here. And Drew's here. I'm going to go ahead and add him to the stream. Drew, welcome. Glad that you joined us here today. Good. It's good to meet you in person. So we've talked a lot on Discord, but nice to meet you in person. Well, I guess not in person. That's not the right way.
Hey, about as close as it gets nowadays, man.
That's right. That's totally true. So I was just telling the audience, we need you to hit the like button. And question of the day, which I always struggle with these, and I need to just make a list of them to ask. But question, I'm just going to ask you, where are you watching from? So again, I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, and I need you to hit the like button and comment where you are watching this from. Again, the comments and the likes help the YouTube algorithm, which we're always trying to game the algorithm as YouTubers. So, Drew, I appreciate you hopping on here today. Could you go ahead and start out by introducing yourself and give a little bit of your background?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually from Chicago. So my name is Drew Wolfer. I kind of started up a little, kind of like a YouTube channel. I'm very early. I'm very new. So I'm very small, like 3K subs or something like that. I've only been on here for about 3-4 months tops. And I was looking at all the DeFis and stuff like that. I've been in crypto since about 2014. So I've seen a lot of stuff happen. I came in kind of on the back end of that very first like real crash where it went from like 1,000 all the way down to 200. And I think I bought my first Ethereum at like $100 or something like that. It was crazy. And then bought my first Bitcoin at like, I think it was like 800 or something. So it was pretty good prices back then comparatively. And I went to college. I did the whole traditional American, route that everybody tells you to do. I went to college, played soccer, got good grades, went and got a good job coming out, and worked in corporate America. Went to Liberty Mutual, which is one of the big insurance companies in America. If people are watching from overseas, they might not know what Liberty Mutual is. It's like a Fortune 100 company. So I felt really good about that. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And went into the cybersecurity division after about a year there and did technology errors and omissions and stuff like that. And I just I wasn't feeling the whole corporate America thing because, you had to ride a train every day to work, take like an hour to get there, took like an hour to get back. And I was just like, when am I going to have time to spend with my family? So I started my own business, and almost immediately, actually, once I like that first train ride, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, we got to do something about this. I started my own business, e-commerce brand, and then that finally took off. After about a year, I built it up, and then I was able to exit corporate America. And, I've been running my businesses for about, 5 years. We have a e-commerce brand, we have a distribution business, stuff like that. And then I started to get into YouTube because I was like, well, crypto's kind of something that I'm a little bit passionate about, and I'd like to talk about it. So started going through the DeFis, seeing all the Ponzi-nomic protocols, seeing all the rug pulls and just anonymous creators and just people getting wrecked. And I was like, you know what? I think I can build a better business model here, because a lot of these crypto projects are being run by like, master coders and stuff like that. And that's great. Like obviously they're very intelligent individuals in their own right. But it didn't seem like a lot of the people that were running these businesses were actual business people. So I was like, all right, let's see if we can get a business guy in here. So that's exactly what I did. Created and a couple of it was actually prompted by, a few of my fans on YouTube, and they were like, hey, you should just create your own crypto protocol. I think you do extremely well. So I thought it was a joke at first, and they kept saying it. So I was like, all right, cool, let's try it. And here we are. And now we're 40% sold out in less than a week of offering this thing, man. And it runs for another 2 full weeks. So I'm ecstatic, like, especially in this market. Woo,
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. No, that's super cool. I think we have like fairly similar stories. That was kind of the same as me as I was,
Yeah.
working a corporate job, and then I was like, man, I can't, never going to see my family. Like I can't stand this. I don't like working for someone else.
Yep.
And so then yes, started my own business, and that's kind of kicked off the entrepreneurial journey. Well, very cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about Wolfer Finance. So I want to bring up, here is the website for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So again, assuming that these people watching, I know there's some in your community, but I mean, people have never heard of finance. Can you kind of give just maybe like an elevator pitch of what you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's like a few key things that kind of separate our business model from others. And the main one is going to be transparency. So obviously, like I'm all the way out there. I'm in the social sphere in abundance, right? I'm fully documented my LLC where, and if you don't know like what a federal employer identification number is because you're watching from overseas, I get that. That number is actually on my website and it is tied to my social security number. So the registered agent here that hosts that has a fiduciary liability to get a hold of me. So it's about as doxed as you can possibly be without me giving you like my blood type and stuff like that. So there's that. And then all of the wallet addresses, the investments, all of the income, obviously the blockchain, it is undefeated. It has an inability to lie, right? So you can track literally everything. And, all you have to do to see these things is go to the, wallet addresses pages. There's a page that's all about documentation, KYC and doxing. And then we are just all about transparency, essentially, when it comes down to it. So we run this like a business. We're going to do monthly, well, at the very least, we're going to do quarterly and annual reports. We'll see if everybody wants us to do monthly reports. I think people will start saying, hey, stop emailing me after a while. So we'll try that and we'll see how it goes. And then we do actual in-person audits. So kind of similar to how Yield Nodes does it, except for ours is a little bit more, I guess, intense because I'm going to actually pick one person to fly in. And that's the reason why I'm picking one person is because I need to know what their technical abilities are. Because the way that our business model is set up, I might actually have them host a masternode in person on camera for the community. And then the community is also going to pick a person. And then at, Wolfer Finance's expense, we're going to fly them in. They're going to verify all the assets that everybody else can verify them online, but we're going to have people verify them in person and just make sure that they are all there. And then they might even host a masternode. And then, so the second thing is, the main thing about Wolfer that makes it unique or different in a market full of, a lot of master marketers and Ponzi protocols right now is the fact that we're only taking one round of funding. So the reason why we can do this and operate like this is because of our business model. The way that we have tailored it is every time we put money into the investments, obviously we raise the initial capital, we put it directly into investments, and then 50% of that goes to the NFT holders that bought said NFTs and funded the business, and then 45% of that goes right back into new investments every single month. So we don't need new entrants, participants, investors, any new capital to come in order for us to grow our protocol, because we can grow it on our own income. And then 5% goes to the team for literally doing all of this for everybody. And then essentially one of the main draws of Wolfer Finance is just being able to get into the top tier, like gold standard income generation assets that the normal retail investor that maybe only has $500 up to $10,000, $20,000 to invest can't get into, right? Most people can't afford a DAG node, definitely can't afford an FTM validator node, AVAX validator, Ethereum validators, Gala gaming nodes that are like $100,000. So those are the types of things that we're getting into. We're not throwing our money into, high APY protocols like those 100,000% auto compounders. We're not putting them into like fake nodes that don't actually run blockchains. And all of our income comes from legitimate businesses doing legitimate transactions on legitimate blockchains. Like whenever you send a Bitcoin transaction, a miner has to authenticate that transaction and you pay a fee, and that miner is paid a portion of that fee. And so is the masternode holder for actually storing that data. So we will be the masternode holders that are storing that data for the blockchains, and we will be paid our portion of that. And then another kind of like, I don't know. The NFT market is kind of wild. And I think we're actually using NFTs the way that they're supposed to be used, like almost as a crowdfunding source or as a membership piece, right? So I see NFTs shifting more towards, instead of being like a Michael Jordan rookie card that you're speculating is going to go up over time, right? NFTs are probably going to be shifting more towards those membership benefits, those crowdfunding sources and stuff like that. And I feel like that's exactly what we're doing, because at the end of the day, our NFT is not about the art. We made it it's cool looking and it's professional and it's clean, but it's nothing crazy. It's not like you're going to get a wolf with gold teeth and a cigar. And it's not about that. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't about that, so it didn't trick people into thinking like, oh, this is just about the NFT. Because at the end of the day, the NFT actually has income tied to it, because that is your position, how you funded this protocol. And that is how we know. We take a snapshot every single month of all the NFT holders, and then we know where that income needs to be distributed to. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. No chain, no coin, no DApp, no source code to target, no hacks, no vulnerabilities, no exploits, no rug pulls, and essentially no claiming. This is one of those things where you can, if you can buy an NFT, you can participate in this, and you can just set it and forget it. We're not talking a year in the future. We're not even talking 5 years in the future. Our projections are so far out. We put 10 years. We've projected out 10 years because that's where we want to be. We want people to be able to count on this for a long time. And we also want people to be able to pass this down to their children if they decide to. And that's what I'll be doing as well. I have a 9-year-old son. In 10 years, I'll be able to pass this down to him if I really wanted to. And so that's what we want to do for the investors as well. So yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Okay, very cool. No, that's super helpful. And I want to just say hello to Austin. So we've got just a YouTuber, meetup going on right now. So appreciate you guys being on here. Please, again, do hit the like button. And thank you, everybody who's joining us here today. Could you talk a little bit? So how does this look from an investor standpoint? So you mint an NFT. What's the cost on that? And then what's kind of the projected, I know projections are always hard, but what's kind of the projected, hey, in a year you'll get your ROI, or how long? And then this is going to be lifetime rewards, or how does that kind of all work out?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is $500 per NFT. And the way that you pay that is in Matic at Matic market price, which has been wild because I've been having to update the contract like every 30 seconds lately, because before when we were creating this, the market was not in turmoil. And then the market turned into this like just crazy place to be. And so a lot of people were like, hey, why didn't you do USDC? Well, hindsight is 2020. And if I tell everybody now USDC, people are going to get confused, and then people are going to be trying it on every single exchange, or not exchange, but chain known to man, because USDC is on like every chain. So people will be trying to mint from ETH, people will be trying to mint from AVAX, and it's not going to work. So I think it would be more confusing, and that's what we don't want to do. So essentially, whenever you put in that $500, we take that money, and spoiler alert, I told people I was going to bring a spoiler alert to this. We've actually already invested. We're not waiting like most projects do until the end. Like, this is the time to buy, because this is the opportunity of a lifetime, because this is where millionaires are made, at the bottom. And I'm not saying we're at the bottom, but I'm saying we're definitely getting there. But this is where millionaires are made, are at the bottom and not the top. And so we've actually started deploying most of the money that we've already brought in, all of the capital. So we actually have an FTM validator node already. We have 3 AVAX validator nodes, working on a 4th. And then we have 3 Ethereum validator nodes already. And we have 6 DAG constellation nodes. So we're waiting for the hardware to come in on those, because we have to host those, and they take up terabytes of storage space. And it's not something anybody needs to worry about. Obviously, that's my job. I get it. You don't need to worry about that. But that is why some of these nodes aren't necessarily hosted yet, but we did pick them up for rock bottom prices. So at the end of the day, we do not have to invest in these like protocols that we have to take a chance on. Like, Ethereum validators are going to be here. AVAX validators are going to be here. DAGs are going to be here, right? And so we actually went ahead and got those, because think about it like this. If Ethereum is at $1,200 right now, and in the next bull run, it goes back up, and that might be a year from now. right? So this is kind of where I'm tying in the ROI aspect of this. The ROI is not going to be immediate. And if that's what people are looking for, it won't be this one, but exponentially greater will be the ROI over the lifetime of this protocol, because we're not looking to be here for a year. This isn't a cash grab. It's not one of those quick flip type things. This is something that, everything in life that's worth having comes from hard work, and it comes from actually spending the time, the blood, sweat, and years on it, right? Like you've created a business. You did not create that overnight. I've created businesses. I did not create them overnight. I wish I could say that I did, but it took me a year to even be able to build a business, to leave my job, to replace my income. So this isn't one of those things that's going to replace your income overnight, but over the next few years. And our projections are we can probably do about 1,300% over the next 6 or so years. And this is depending on how the market lets us, right? So what we're thinking is, because of our mechanism where we can take 45% and reinvest it into these gold standard assets, and this might actually go down. This might actually be more around like a 1,000%, because that was back whenever I thought we were going to have to take a few more chances with the capital up front. But now, Ethereum has gone from, $3K down to $1,200, and you don't even have to take those chances if you're just patient. So if we can just be patient for, maybe this bear market does last a year. Sometimes they do. Maybe it's done by the end of this year, but, I'm thinking we're probably going to be able to return, 1,300% over the next, 6 or so years. And exponentially greater is the return every year from then on out, where you could be making, 5x what you initially invested. And it's real. It's real. And that's what I don't think a lot of people understand, is this is actually real income that we're bringing in. It's not fake, propped up, printed, coins from a minting perspective, where we just mint more coins and then just pay people with it, or we pay people with new investors' money, because neither of those things exist in our protocol. There's no new investors, and there's no coin for us to print. So there's really no way for us to fake this. And there is a way to get in. If we say we sell out and people still want to get in, they can go and buy it on the secondary market on OpenSea, but that brings zero money into our protocol, and it takes zero money out of our protocol. We have a 0% fee for the investors that want to sell their NFT. There's no royalty fee, because we're not interested in that. We're interested in focusing on building the business.
Yeah, no, and Joe had a very good question. And again, I think it's helpful just for us to clarify between this and the node projects that we've been used to for so long.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between paying out in a native token, a guaranteed amount, and kind of what you guys are doing, giving the actual yield that's being produced? Can you kind of talk about the difference there?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that's it needs to be a clear differentiation in between the two. So I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate Joe bringing that up. So essentially, those node protocols, right? They're paying out those guaranteed rewards. Like a strong block node was like, oh, you're going to make 0.09 strong per node per day. Okay. How do they guarantee that? It was always weird to me. But we know how they guarantee that. And it's because they have a rewards pool that whenever the new investors come in and buy those nodes, they take a portion of those fake nodes, right? They take a portion of the rewards and they put it into a rewards pool. With this, it is nothing like that. Your income that is generated every single month will be variable. So there is no guarantee of hey, you're going to get 15 Matic this month, or you're going to get 150 Matic next month, guaranteed, right? And the reason is because the difference in between those fake node protocols and the actual node protocols that we're talking about, like the master nodes and the validator nodes, is they're hosting a network. So there's two key integral parts that make a blockchain work. And if they didn't have both of them, then blockchains would be null and void, and they would not exist. So whenever you transact on FTM, on the Phantom Opera network, you have to pay a fee in order to transact on that network. And so what those fees do is they all get pooled into a block, or what I would call a batch in credit card terms, right? And then that block gets sent off, it gets authenticated by the miners algorithmically, and then that the ability to track the blockchain is what makes it beautiful, right? So the masternode holders are essentially renting out their server space so that there's, thousands of nodes all around the world. And it's going to be incredibly hard to take every single one of those nodes down all at the same time and lose transaction data. So that's what gives the ability to track the entire blockchain forevermore, right? Because there's all of these nodes that are storing every single transaction known to man. So both of those, the miners and the masternode holders, get paid a portion of those fees that come in off of those blocks that are coming from legitimate transactions, from legitimate people transacting on legitimate blockchains, right? It's like if you go to a store and you buy something with your credit card, that store has to pay a fee to the merchant for being able to use that credit card. So I actually used to run a retail store, and it was about 3% for Visa cards, and sometimes it was 4% for American Express cards. Now the merchant is the one that's paying those fees, so the end consumer does not see that. But on the blockchain, the end consumer is the one paying that fee. So that's essentially the difference in between our actual master and validator nodes as opposed to, a strong block node or a Thor node that, and I know strong block has its own technical chain and stuff now, but go look at the transaction volume on it, and then go look at the transaction volume on FTM and, AVAX and stuff like that. So it's a big difference, but the whole key, the premise of the protocol is for us to take that 45%. And if the market is still doing what it's supposed to do, like regularly, like static, almost like capitulating or going up, then those returns should be going up every single month, month over month, because we have more assets that are generating more income every single month. So technically, if we reinvest 45% of our income, then we've added more assets that can create us more income.
Okay, very cool. And we got a lot of new people coming on. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask those, audience, and I'll bring those up as they fit into the conversation. Ryan says that background is awesome, and I assume he's talking to me, with these orange curtains here at the Holiday Inn in the middle of New Mexico. No, I assume he's talking about you, but yes, Ryan, thanks for the comment.
Thank you, Ryan.
Can you talk a little bit? I think this is an interesting point too. People are used to these flash loan attacks and bots and whale dumps and things like that. Can you talk about the advantage of just doing an NFT and not worrying about your own token, your own chain, or anything like that? Can you talk a little bit about the benefits to that?
Oh, absolutely. So with the flash loans and the bot attacks and stuff like that, the worst bot attack that we can really get is just, and we've already experienced it, is bots trying to attack like our whitelist page on our website. Like they tried to take that down. We thwarted that, with the quickness. That was super easy. So there's not going to be any technical whale attacks and stuff like that. We've limited. So I've gone through dozens and dozens and dozens of protocols. I probably got 100 videos on different DeFi protocols, right? And I pooled it into a big basket, and I said, what are the things that made all this happen, right? So like you've got the elephant money hack, you've got, just Ponzi-nomic business models that have, imploded into disaster. You've got mathematical impossibilities on the auto compounders. You've got the minting on the auto compounders and all this stuff, right? So I was like, how can we protect against all of those things? Well, for the hacks and the exploits, no DApp, right? So there's no bots that are going to be able to come in and do that. So then if you don't have a coin, then there's no whale dumps, right? So technically, if somebody wants to, waste all their money and come in and try to buy up all the NFTs on OpenSea, I guess they can do that, and they can try and dump them for, 10 cents, but it wouldn't really make much sense for them to do that. So yeah, and again, I don't think our investors are going to be very open to people buying their NFTs a lot of the time, because they're all in this for the long haul. So they're not going to be trying to sell our NFTs probably after 2 or 3 months. And so yeah, that just not having a chain, not having a coin, not having a DApp, it really limits those kind of vulnerabilities that other protocols are suffering. And it's all about keeping it simple, because I see a lot of these roadmaps where people are like, oh, we're doing XYZ, ABC, DEFG, right? And it's like, we're doing 32 different things, but I always say if you try to chase two rabbits at the same time, you'll never catch either of them, right? And so that's a big problem in my mind in terms of just focus, right? You need to be laser focused. So we're doing one thing and we're doing one thing only, and we're doing one thing very well. And we're going to double down on it and just keep it rolling. So yeah.
So along with that, Ryan had a question too. Has there or will there be any audits of the contracts? So can you kind of talk about, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So there's technically no contract to audit, right? There's no source code. There's none of that traditional stuff. I know it's wild. It's a hard concept for people to wrap their head around. Like, dude doesn't have a coin. It doesn't have a D app. It doesn't have a chain. It doesn't have a smart contract. What's he doing in crypto, right? And I'm just, it's all about just doing everything as safely as possible. So there's no contract at all. The only contract that we ever had was the minting contract. And that was actually done by my web developer that I've known for over half a decade. He's done every website that we've ever done. He helped me build the website. He helped me do the minting contract. So the audit was essentially me test dummying the entire thing and then getting on a call with him, and I made him transfer it over to the contract address. So technically nobody really owns that minting contract address now. It's the actual minting wallet that owns that address. And then so there's not really any audits. That's why we have in-person audits, so everybody can come and just see, hey, here's our master nodes and stuff like that. So keep it simple.
Awesome. Yeah, that's right. I want to say this is exactly how I considered starting my own project too, because people were like, "Hey, we want to invest in what you're investing in," and I thought, well, I'll just make an NFT. You don't have to worry about, like you said, a launch. I didn't want to deal with the launch. I didn't want to deal with the token. I didn't want to deal with all that. So.
And then it's incredibly easy to distribute out the income, right? Because you just take a snapshot, and then on Matic, we just do an airdrop, right? And this answers ZY Conk X's question of why choosing Matic Network. Because first off, Matic Network is one of the fastest and most inexpensive transactors in the entire blockchain space, first off, and it piggybacks off Ethereum. And let's be real, Ethereum is going nowhere, right? In terms of like just plummeting into oblivion. It's going places, but it's not going to just be gone. So, and then the second reason is because we actually have access on Matic Network to OpenSea, which is the, top tier gold standard kind of NFT place. We didn't want to be on like some small NFT exchange somewhere else that nobody'd ever heard of. I think that's kind of gimmicky, and we want to separate ourselves in a professional way from all of these other kind of gimmick protocols and stuff like that. So that's why we chose Matic. Matic it'll cost us like, $50 to $100 to airdrop to 5,000 people. Whereas if you did that on Ethereum or even, some of the other networks, it would cost, sometimes thousands of dollars, and that's investors' money. And I don't want to, stop the investors from being able to make money.
Yeah, totally. Okay. This is a question from Facebook. So streaming to YouTube and Facebook. So most people are watching on YouTube, but on Facebook, what is the most stable investment you're doing in current market conditions? And kind of what I'd like you talked a little bit about this before, but can you talk about, the bear market and how that's affected your strategy and what you're doing with investments and things like that?
It heavily affected our strategy. So with the bear market that's happened and just the absolute oblivion that the cryptocurrency markets have kind of, it's been crazy. And it was hard to launch during this too, because I know a lot of people had Matic ready to go and then they got wrecked. And so there's people on the sidelines, and it's a terrible thing that we're running into right now. So with that being said, Ethereum validators are about as solid as it gets, right? AVAX validators are about as solid as it gets. FTM validators are pretty solid. I would say FTM's not going anywhere. If there's any one of those out of those that I would think might not make it, it might be FTM. But the reason why I don't think FTM is not going to make it, and I think they're still going to do extremely well, is because AVAX and FTM are in this all-out like war, right? Where they're battling it out. They're trying to be the one that has the most transaction volume. And it kind of reminds me, and I'm not comparing this. I'm saying it reminds me of this. back when Apple and Microsoft were competing against each other in the internet days, and they were like just trying to grab market share. But that competition breeds innovation, which is why I think FTM and AVAX will probably be two of the top tier going at it. And I wish we could afford a Polkadot node. I really do, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, what about Dot? Well, those nodes cost like tens of millions of dollars, because I was looking at it the other day and it's like you need like 1.8 million Polkadot tokens because there's only 50 validators, and you have to like overtake somebody else's position in order to become a validator, and it just takes way too much money. We wouldn't be able to raise that much money. So yeah, Ethereum, AVAX, FTM, DAG Constellation, let's be honest, DAG is gold standard, and those are what we have already. That's, and for anybody that just joined, we already have three. We already have an FTM validator. We already have 3 Ethereum validators. We already have 3 and working on the 4th AVAX validator. And we have 6 DAG nodes. And we still have money on the sidelines ready to deploy. If we go down a little bit further, cool. I'm going to double all that up at a cheaper price. And then, we're only 40% of the way through the minting period, or we're only 40% of the way through the NFTs right now, and only a week into the minting. So say, we've raised about $1 million already. Say another $1 million comes in. Woo, we can double that up really quick. And I did want to touch on this really quick, because this is something that I was talking about in my community, and it really gets people. It really kind of like drives it home for people, the numbers behind it. But if an ETH validator right now, we paid less than 40K for every single one of our ETH validators, but pre-bear market, this thing was valued at over $160,000 per validator. That's crazy. That's crazy numbers. So if it makes about 8 to 10% per year, if we paid 40K for it, and in a year that thing's back up to 160K, that 8 to 10% that we were making on our 40K now turns into more like 32 to 40% per year on an ETH validator node. So like, we're in such a good position for us to just like kill it. And just I'm going to do one other example and then we'll move on. I promise I won't bore you with all these numbers, but the AVAX validators, this is the other best example I can make. They cost about 2,000 AVAX, which is anywhere from about $30,000 to $33,000 right now. So it was at about $16, $15, but pre-bear market, this thing was at 130. And if it makes, 11 to 12% per year, and each of it goes back anywhere close to that, right? Say it goes to $100 again, which isn't even, that same validator that you bought at 33K is now worth $200,000. So not only are you appreciating your assets significantly, right, over the lifetime of this, you're also adding to them by the 45% allocation. And then you're also increasing your ROI because you bought them at such a discounted price. That $33,000 that we put in that was only making 11 to 12%. Well, now that $33,000 is making, somewhere in, 7% per month, probably 88% per year on an AVAX validator. So this is the time to buy these. This is seriously the time to buy these things.
Yeah. So there's kind of 2 income streams. It's the validator rewards themselves. And then also just that you're investing in blue chip projects. So you're not, a lot of the old node projects were kind of investing in each other. Yep. And when one fell apart, then the other one fell apart. And it was kind of a weird phenomenon we had going on.
Yeah. And the key to this is like, because I know a lot of people say, oh, well, I can just buy AVAX and hold it long term. Yeah, you can, but can you make 11% on it per year? No, and not unless you have $33,000 to buy the validator node. So that's the difference as to why we will come out exponentially greater than somebody that just buys and holds these things. Of course, we're going to buy and hold them, but we're going to be accruing income off of them along the way. It's like whenever you buy a house and you decide to rent it out, that rental income is now your income every single month. And if that house goes up by 2x over the next 10 years, then not only did you 2x your investment, but you also brought in, X amount of dollars every month for those 10 years,
Yeah, totally. And we have tons of questions in the comments. So thank you guys so much. It makes my job so easy. I just can read. I don't really do anything. And if we don't get to some of these questions, do hop in the Discord, and I'm sure the mods there, Drew's there, and they would love to continue answering your questions. But is there a team that decides the investments, or is it just Drew? How is it decided?
Yep. So it's just me. There's not going to be any, like, we'll take people's opinions into consideration. But we saw how that worked for, there's no voting or anything like that. We do have a certain amount of voting that happens in our community, but it won't be on investment decisions because we saw how that worked for a lot of the previous protocols, people still voting for Time Wonderland, stuff like that. So yeah, at the end of the day, it'll be me. And a lot of people ask, well, okay, what is your, qualifications? So the qualifications is the fact that I own my own business and I know how to create and generate income. The second qualification is the fact that I've done like every single protocol known to man. I've done a kind of synopsis of them, right? And I've picked them apart. And if you want to know what I like and what I don't like, just go to my YouTube channel. You'll see the things that I do like. I did an 18 video series on all these master nodes, right? It's called the Wolfer Wars Nodes Tournament. And then if you want to see the things that I don't like, check the thumbnails and the titles of all the videos, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And you can go to the About Me section that shows all of the calls that I had. Like I almost called Thor to the day. It was nuts. I almost called Strong Block to the day. It was nuts. And so I know what's not good, and I know what is good, and we're not taking chances. I don't think anybody in their right mind, if I came up to him and said, hey, is it Ethereum validator node a good investment? I don't think anybody in the crypto market would be like, nah, dude, get away from me. So we're going to make really good decisions. And I'm actually doing this in my personal life as is. I have a Gala node, I have SRX nodes, which are a little bit more risky. I get that. But you got to go with what you can afford. And then obviously I have Flux nodes, and I have a little bit of money in Yield nodes as well. I think Yield nodes is a great project. I brought out some things about Yield nodes, but I think Yield nodes is definitely solid for at least the next year. So I wouldn't be too worried about that either. And trust me, if I could, I would have an AVAX validator, an FTM validator, and Ethereum validator too.
Yeah, and then I just want to talk about, you touched on this already, but for people who are kind of asking, well, why don't I just do this myself? I could do all these things. And for me, I guess the benefits that I see as a potential investor is, first off, I would have to have a ton of capital if I wanted to diversify. First off, to get a node in any of these, projects, to get an FTM validator, an AVAX validator, but then also to diversify. So maybe I save up and I get a DAG node, for, I think they're going for 25K right now or something like that. But it's going to be hard for me to raise enough money for a DAG node and an AVAX validator and an FTM validator. And so you get that diversification and the nodes. And then also some of your discipline, I think. I buy AVAX, and then when it starts going down, I'm tempted to sell. And so I think there's a lot of benefit having you kind of run that too.
If you just wanted to buy literally all of those nodes, it would cost you in the realm of $200,000. So if you wanted just one DAG, one AVAX, one Ethereum, and one FTM validator at market price right now, it would cost you $200,000. So it's quite substantial.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. We got a lot of good questions here. We could probably go for 2 hours with all these questions. Could you talk a little bit about the projections? So JB, I believe he's a mod with you guys. He says that you have some 10-year projection models. Could you talk about what those numbers kind of look like? And again, just projections.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So man, it gets wild. It depends on what strategy we utilize, but spoiler alert, if we stick to our plan and we stick to, even our worst strategy, like our most conservative strategy known to man, not even taking into account market fluctuations, like the fact that Bitcoin and just cryptocurrency could be exponentially greater in 10 years. I mean, we could be at $20 million in assets over 10 years. And on the high end of that, there's a model that we built out that's a little bit more risky, and it gets wild. It's all the way up to 156 million in assets. It's like, imagine if you were just making 1% on $156 million worth of assets every single month. Like, geez, everybody's making ridiculous amounts of money. And yeah, we have all of those modeled out in our Discord, and they're in the pinned comments. So JB actually pinned those in the comments, in the general chat and stuff. And I actually did a whole video on them too on my YouTube channel. But yeah, it gets wild, man. Like worst case scenario, you 10x your assets. Best case scenario, you like 20x them or like 100x them almost. It's crazy.
Okay, and then we appreciate two tough questions. So we don't just want softball questions, but tell OG, he's a faithful AMA watcher for me. So I appreciate you being here, brother. But can you talk about, do you guarantee any returns, or this is just all you're going to give the actual yield? Can you respond to this question?
Yeah. So can you tell Drew that he should be humble? How does he know for sure that he will make these guaranteed returns? They are still insanely high for an average fund, especially now that crypto is whatever. Okay. So I'm not guaranteeing anything. First off, there is no guarantee, even, and you can check that out in our terms of service as well. There's no guarantee of income, but what I can guarantee you is that, I mean, just from a logical perspective, right? Do we honestly think that Ethereum's not going to be around in 5 years, right? Do we honestly think that AVAX and DAG are not going to be around in 5 years? So it's not a matter of if, but when. And this is, I say this at my own detriment, right? But it would almost take an entire cryptocurrency market implosion, right, to take us all the way out to where we're not generating any income, because there's a difference in between what we're doing and what most people are doing, right? Our assets are still there. So if we have an Ethereum validator node, it's because we have 32 Ethereum, right? And that validator node actually makes us income. So it's not like, yeah, will the market go up and down? Absolutely. 100%. We know that. But that's not going to stop us from generating income. We will generate income every single month because of the fact that these validators generate income, because the only way that we don't generate income is if there's no blocks and there's no transactions on those blockchains, which if that's the case, then we've got way bigger problems than Wolfer Finance, right? We have an entire market collapse on our hands if that's the case. So it's not a guarantee. What I'm guaranteeing is that validators and masternodes do generate income. How much is that income worth? It's determined by the market.
Okay, yeah, good answer to that. And then can you talk about, does OpenSea block? I've heard this from other people too, that OpenSea doesn't allow NFTs that are, I don't know, financial instruments like this. Have you had any problems with that, or have you looked into that at all?
No, we have not had any problems with that at this point. And really what it's going to come down to on stuff like that is like, if somebody, they're not, so they don't have like, they probably have algorithms that would pull these types of things up, but is it a financial instrument? One could argue either way, right? So one could argue either way and say, technically it's not really a financial instrument, because think about like a Bored Ape Yacht Club. You get airdrops from a Bored Ape Yacht Club too, right? But it's not necessarily a guaranteed airdrop every single month, but you can get airdrops from Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. So is it a financial instrument? I think it's more of kind of like an on-chain real estate company, because we're not like going out and buying and selling and trading and doing all these things. We're actually taking our assets, investing them, and then generating income from them. So is it a traditional like financial instrument? It's open to interpretation, but unless OpenSea really like cracks down and changes their policies on that, I don't see any of that being a problem. Plus, we're on there right now and people are buying and selling NFTs as is and transferring, and we've had absolutely zero issues.
Okay. And then along with that, while we're talking about the NFT, when people buy or sell, do those funds, do those go to you, the creator fees, and are you guys going to use that? Do you have plans for that?
Does NFT 10% creator fees go to the system to buy more nodes?
So like when people make their third party sales on OpenSea and you get your creator fee.
Oh yeah, there's none of that. Yeah, there's a 0% fee for all of that. So there is a 0% royalty fee. We thought about at first, and this might not be updated on the website, but we're mid-launch. So like just give me some time to get everything updated. But there is no fee for if you sell or buy your NFT or buy a new NFT. So there's no issue with that. at all.
Okay. Nope, that makes a lot of sense. And then can you mint more than one NFT?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can mint up to 100 per wallet. We wanted to keep it to less than 100. That way nobody owned more than like 2% of the protocol. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then we have a bunch of questions about this, so I'll try to kind of lump them all in here. But are there worries about regulation? You know, especially since you're doxxed, and you know, sometimes being non-doxxed, you don't, you know, regulation doesn't affect you as much.
Yeah.
But are you worried about the SEC coming in or anything like that?
No, we've already protected against that. And the way that, so if you look at the way that the SEC can govern you, right? It's all about the burden of proof is on them. So it's all about money flow. So if you have, it's in a tax and in a regulatory sense, it's all about the money flow. So if there's no money coming into US bank accounts, right? That is saying like, hey, this is Wolfer Finance's funds, right? Then there is no regulatory concern. So if say I have to, you know, for my salary, right? I've got $5,000 or something that I made this month off of this, right? Then what you do is you send that to an offshore account and then you send it here and it shows that you're running an offshore company. And as long as you're not filing tax returns that show like on-chain assets and stuff like that, and all of the stuff that is any money that's coming in is coming in from offshore, you know, whether it's in the islands or whether it's from Central America or whatever, that pretty much settles that. So
Okay,
and we've got the best lawyers, man. We've got like, you know, one of the biggest law firms in the country. They've been around since 1906. That's setting all that stuff up. We've got really good accountants that are basically telling us exactly what I just told you. This is how you do it if you don't want to be, you know, regulated and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, and I haven't said it for a while, so Eric, thank you for the reminder. But yeah, hit the like button as we are continuing on here.
Yep. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. That's the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood. We appreciate it.
That's right. We definitely do. So Space says, looks solid. How do we get payment? Is it monthly airdrops?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we actually do the payments in monthly airdrops. We take a snapshot of the entire contract, right, of all the NFT holders, and then we do an airdrop to all of them, and it's in equal proportion. So I know that there's 4 different NFTs. That has nothing to do with income. There is no frill and shill to this. It's literally kind of just for fun, and plus, everybody that owns an NFT, say we create a new Wolfer project in the future, Wolfer mining, right? Then you all of the investors have first crack at that because you own the NFT. And the only thing that you can get technically like lucky by pure chance about is say you mint an alpha, a beta, or a gamma. They actually have higher priority in those white lists. But at the end of the day, all 5,000 people that own the NFTs get that. And we will be distributing all of this out in Matic. So the reason why we chose Matic is because if we did USDC, first off, we don't know what stable coins are going to be around in 10 years. And second off, it doesn't give you any exposure to the overall market sentiments, right? So say somebody that wants to set it and forget it for 5 years, right? And we transfer it out in Matic, then if Matic is, you know, 10x where it was now in 5 years, then they've actually made a lot more in terms of income than if we were to just transfer them out of stablecoin.
Yeah, no, very, very good. And Darren says, crypto picks and shovels, pure infrastructure play. This is great. Yeah, and that's something I've learned as a business owner is whenever there's a gold rush, the people who make the most money are the pickaxe, you know, salesmen. And that's kind of what you're doing is you're helping provide the infrastructure here. So I think that's a good point. And some of these questions that people are asking, if you've joined late and I don't bring up one of your questions, chances are we answered it earlier. So the replay to this will be available right after we're done here, and it'll be uploaded to my channel in 24 hours, so you can watch the full thing here. Yeah, talking about the background of the people in the project. Yeah, we talked through that already. Let's see.
Yeah,
if people have.
Not to interrupt, but just for them, you can go to my website, and this actually brings up a really good point that I want to make before anybody even asks it, just to be proactive about it. But you can go to the website and see, you know, my background and all that type of stuff. That's all there. It's on the About Me page. We're 100% fully transparent. We love questions. Well, I've never not answered a question. Okay. And I actually don't ever ask people to send me questions up front because I want people to know that I'm being genuine and that I actually know the answers to these things. I think that is very integral to being a founder, leading a project and a group of investors like this. Now, second thing is, what if Drew gets hit by a bus? So if Drew gets hit by a bus because Drew lives in Chicago, right? Or, just something like that happens, there is a dedicated individual that I choose. All right. And I've already chose this person because I know their skill set. Now there's been like, 1,000 people ever since I announced this. I've probably had like dozens and dozens of people that are like, hey man, can I be the second guy? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's great. I appreciate that people want to step up and help out. But at the end of the day, it has to be somebody that I know, somebody that I can trust, and somebody that I know their skill set. So I basically I want to have another me running this, right? And if we survive, if Drew doesn't get hit by a bus for 10 years, then we're good because my son will do it. And he is mini Drew. So that is the best case scenario for everybody, right? And he learned directly from Drew himself, right? So, but in the event that it happens before then, I actually have a designated person that I've already talked to. They're fine with it. And they actually would do it with my other businesses as well. And it's also a person that I need to be able to trust that will take care of my family in my untimely death, right? So I want to make sure that my family is taken care of as well.
Okay. Nope. That's a good question and good answer. I thought this was interesting. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about it. If somebody's trying to compare, what you're doing to yield nodes, how would you help guide someone through thinking through that?
Absolutely. So we actually have an entire section on this on the website, but I'll love to go through it. It's called the what makes us unique. So it not only covers what makes us unique, like some of the things that I was talking about earlier when we first opened the live stream. It talks about what makes us different from yield nodes and probably a safer hedge, in my opinion. And it also talks about like why you wouldn't just put all of your money into a lending protocol as well, because you can earn yield there too. So essentially, yield nodes does all of these master noding, right? All of these different master nodes, but and it's all the way down at the bottom, James, if you're looking for it. It should say, something about like what makes us unique. Yeah, right there, yield nodes. So yield nodes kind of like they own everything that they do. Okay. So I actually made an entire video on how this could be problematic in the future, because at the end of the day, yield nodes kind of almost props up their own prices by the new investors coming in, because they own all of the things that they do. So they own Sapphire, they own Dash Diamond, they own Peony, and all of those have incredibly low volume. Like you could literally go to DAG Constellation and it's got more volume in a day than all of their projects combined on one exchange, on KuCoin, right? You could go to, and you're not going to run into volume and liquidity issues, first off. Second off, we're not pumping our own bags, and we're actually diversifying across all of these ones that are already established. Like with Sapphire, that's their biggest bag, right? The only thing that you can do with Sapphire right now is like buy, and I'm not, I'm not saying that yield nodes is bad. I'm a proponent of yield nodes. I just want to get that out there. But this is about Wolfer Finance, so I will answer those questions. Now, Sapphire, all you can do is buy like video game cards, like I think like Xbox and like gift cards with Sapphire right now. And they're in talks with governments to try to make it like a stable coin currency for, governments that have all these issues with corruption and just economic issues and collapse and stuff like that. But until that's signed, sealed, and delivered, Sapphire really has no use case yet. Same thing with Peony, same thing with Dash Diamond, same thing with 777, all of them. And they all have very low volume. So what they will run into, which is something that we will not run into, is it'll be a bell curve where they'll reach the top where they're not bringing in enough money up here to continue propping the prices up. And they'll actually be selling more in masternode rewards every month to be able to pay out their investors than they will be bringing in new money to, buy up those supplies. So and we're kind of seeing this with Dash Diamond and Peony right now where it's happening. And that's why their biggest bags are in Sapphire, because Sapphire masternodes cost so much to host and they're only a 5% ROI. And that's why Sapphire is still up, and Dash Diamond, which is like a 280 some percent ROI, but it's very cheap or inexpensive, not cheap, to host, that's why Dash Diamond's going down. So you kind of just got to read the lines in the sand. And I encourage you to go watch my last 2 yield notes videos. This is not a ploy to get you on my YouTube channel, but I did like 30 minutes worth of analysis on this stuff. And it's, just think about it,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's helpful to highlight the differences. So like you said, Yield Nodes is going after all these altcoins and masternoding on there. You guys are going after Ethereum, AVAX, Phantom. So Yield Nodes is going to have higher returns because it's going to be higher risk, higher reward. So, they're giving, 200% APY. You guys are probably not going to be that high, at least, year 1 or year 2. Because you're kind of you're going a safer direction than Yield Nodes is kind of going. So you're not even really competitors at all. I'm kind of going after 2 different things.
Yeah, I put us as in one of my videos, I said it really well. I forgot exactly what I said, but I said we're kind of like a bipartisan hedge, right, against Yield Nodes, or a bipartisan like investor, like I don't remember how I said it. It was much more eloquent in the video. We'll put it like that. We're more like bipartisan on them. We're not necessarily competing against them, but we're not necessarily not competing against them, right? Because we're in totally different sectors. We're hosting totally different masternodes. Now, would we maybe host a Sapphire masternode for a few months? Yeah, probably, in the future, maybe, if as long as Sapphire isn't, doing some crazy stuff. But I just don't see it happening right now. And here's the thing. Yield Nodes grows because they bring new investors in. We grow because we don't bring new investors in, right? We grow because we actually like take our income and use it to grow. We don't take all of our income and then just, pay it out to the investors. We can do that if we really want to, but our protocol will never grow anymore after that. So that would be something we would stop doing after maybe 10, 15, years, where everybody's making so much money anyway. So like, yeah, that's cool. Let's just take all of it and distribute it out. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's like we grow in such a different way, but our trajectory could be very similar to theirs. Whereas Yield Nodes is probably, their ROI is probably going to go down over time because they're going to reach that bell curve where they start coming down and then they're not returning as much in terms of USD value. Whereas ours should be going up. So if you want to hedge against Yield Nodes, this is the way to do that. And I'm not saying don't be in Yield Nodes, right? I'm saying if I'm a huge proponent of diversification. So I would never say, hey, don't be in Yield Nodes, just only be in Wolfer Finance or only be in Yield Nodes. Be in both,
Yeah. And just from my perspective also, Yield Nodes, Yield Nodes has a high enough return where I look about maybe 7 months out and think, hey, will Yield Nodes still be good to go in 7 months? And I think, oh yeah, I think they'll still probably be okay in 7 months. Do I think Yield Nodes will be okay with their current business model in 3 years? Probably not. Whereas Wolfer, what you guys are doing, I'm not looking 7 months out. I'm looking, hey, 5 years out. It's going to be, so it's just a different way of looking at things and different, investment strategies, risk reward ratios, all those things. So
yeah, and just not having to run into like volume specific issues on those projects is tremendous. Like we won't sell our rewards, like technically like our master node income. We won't move the market, and we won't move the market by buying it either, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to do one more question here, and then I want to talk about how people can get involved. So when are you starting the airdrops? Will the first airdrop already be this month?
So we don't actually close the minting until the end of this month, or, it's whichever one comes first, right? The chicken or the egg, right? So if we sell out all 5,000 NFTs, boom, we're done. Okay. But if we sell, say, 4,500 of them by the end of June, then, we close up our shop and that's that. So essentially there's a couple of different strategies that we can do, because a lot of people, their main thing is like, everybody is just so like, the market has done these things to people. Okay. And people come in and they're like, how can I compound? How can I compound? I'm like, you can't, because it's a 1-round funded thing. We don't prop our protocol up by bringing in new investors. So the only way that you can technically compound is try to buy another NFT off of another investor, or we can compound. as a whole, and it has to be a consensus. So there's these couple of strategies that we have enlisted, and we've modeled them all out, and these are all in the Discord, right? And there's one strategy where it's like, okay, we just go straight out and we invest everything, July 1, and then your first airdrop would be, at the end of July. Great. Then there's a couple of these strategies that, can help us grow exponentially greater over time if we say forego all payments, and that means me too. That means like if nobody else is making money, then I'm not making money, right? So that means 100% of all of our income goes back into reinvestments. So that 45% allocation now turns into 100% allocation, and my 5% is foregone, and that goes into the protocol as well. And I don't get paid back for that, and I don't have any problem with that, because it's all about where are we going to be in 10 years. 3 months does not matter to me. So there's a model where we have, 3 months compounding, where it's like, hey, we take all of the money that comes in off of our income that comes in, and we put it back in. Or we've got, another one where it's like, hey, we take, only 25% distributions to the shareholder or to the NFT holders, and then we put 70% into, new income generation vehicles and stuff like that. So technically, that it's hard for me to answer that question, because that's going to be up to the investors and how comfortable they are with saying like, hey, if we have a consensus that says, hey, let's compound for the first 3 months, then your first, airdrop won't be for, 3 months. But after that, then you're getting airdropped every single month. But if we just stay with the regular model, it'll probably be, either July or August. And I would think it would be July, because as long as we have everything set up, then, we're good to go.
And then here's a question for me. I know I said that one was the last one, but then I had another one.
No problem.
But are you planning on doing future drops? Or are you going to limit at this 5,000 NFTs? Is there a reason why you wouldn't do another 5,000 NFT where you're going to get another, batch of validators?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there is a reason, and it's because, I wanted to pivot 100% away from the Ponzi-nomics. Like it really left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And so like, I want it to be so far removed from that it's not even in the same conversation. Right. And so second off, I'm Italian, so I'm like a friend of a friend, who's there for you from day one when you're nothing, right? So right now, Wolfer Finance is nothing. All we have is a concept. We've raised money. I get that. We have assets. I get that. We have to prove the model. So I don't necessarily think it's fair for us to offer out, because, whenever you're successful, you probably know this as well, James. Whenever you become successful, everybody's your best friend. Everybody tells you, hey, I knew you were going to do this. I want in now. Right. But it's those are the people that you don't necessarily see when you're not successful. Right. And it's the people that are there when you're not successful that helped you become successful. So I want this to be just like that, where it's like, hey, if you were here first, you're getting preference over the people that come later that are like, oh, I knew this was going to be awesome. Well, okay, then why weren't you in on it, right? If you knew. So if we could actually duplicate this, but I don't want them to dilute the shares of everyone else and dilute the portfolio that we built for others at a time when it was much needed, right? Because say we do it in a year and Ethereum's at $4,500, but we bought all of our nodes at $1,200. It's not really fair after we've proven the model to let all of those people get in on those $1,200 nodes, right? So yeah, we would just why bring more people into that protocol when we could just make another protocol, right? And say, hey, this one's your guys's, right? But these guys over here were the early movers, the OGs, the ones that really believed in it, and they did it like that, so.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it does, as an investor, it does make you feel better, because there's not Ponzi-nomics going on. Yeah. Like, because there's no way, because there's no new money coming in.
Yep.
So yeah,
exactly.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can also check and see and just make sure that we've put the money in, right? So, because I know a lot of people be like, oh, well, how do we know that you're not just putting all the money somewhere and then paying us out? Well, follow the blockchain, right? And check the wallets and see if we have that amount of FTM, that amount of AVAX and the validators and all that stuff. And then there's the in-person audits too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and someone should be able to, if they wanted to put in the work, they could calculate their own return. Like they should be able to say, hey, I'm going to get this amount of USDC or Matic or whatever this month. And they should be able to calculate it exactly if they wanted to put it in the work.
Yeah. Or at least in a very pretty close, because it's all based on transaction volume on the blockchain. So if you know the transaction volume, then yeah, absolutely. You could come very close to it.
All right. So then as we close out here, we've been going for an hour. That's kind of where I like to limit these. For people who want to get involved, minting is open now. And here's the mint page. I'm going to post the link to it. It's in the description also. Someone was wanting to know I think you talked about this earlier, but maybe what is the reason for 4 different NFTs? Is they have the same yields? It's just for fun. Is that correct?
Yeah, everything has the same yield. It was just for fun at the end of the day. I wanted to we call ourselves Wolfer Finance. Obviously, we call ourselves the Wolf Pack, right? And so I wanted it to actually be a pack. And that's like the one only frill or shill that we have in this protocol. And I was like, you know what? I think it'll make it fun for people because there's different roles that you can get in the Discord. You can either be an alpha, a beta, a gamma, or an omega, right? And the omega is the regular, just like everybody else in the wolf pack. The gammas are the soldiers or the generals. The beta is the second in command, and then alpha is obviously the first in command. And so you can get those roles by either 1, minting one of those NFTs, or 2, there's a different tier, like 1 through 5 is omega, 1 through 5 NFTs if you minted that many. And then anything over 20 is you're automatically an alpha, whether you have an alpha wolf NFT or not. So there's 2 ways to get those roles. And then the second part is that alphas, if you're an alpha and you minted 21 NFTs or you got an alpha, you have automatic first dibs on new projects, whitelists. Then, betas come next, gammas come next, omegas come next, then everybody else, right? Because again, I'm Italian. If you're here for me now, I'm going to be here for you in the future.
That's awesome. And Darren wants to know how many I'm minting. And the answer, I'll probably do 3 here off the bat. And I would do it live. JB says, sometimes I like to do that. But if you were on Binance, if you were on BSC, and I had the funds sitting there, I would mint it live. But it's going to take some work for me to get stuff over to Polygon. I'm going to have to do some I don't have a lot of funds sitting around on Polygon Network, so I can't do it live. I don't trust my ability to bridge that live that quickly.
I'm in the same boat, man. I'm in the same boat. A lot of my money is tied up in nodes, right? So Flux nodes, SRX nodes, Gala node, stuff like that. So it's like it's kind of hard for me to move money around too. And that's one of the things that I don't like. And my light went off. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not going to fix it because I know we're almost done, but sorry about that. Technical difficulties of a YouTuber, right? But yeah, I just, it's hard to move money around sometimes in the crypto markets.
Do you have recommendations for bridging over to Polygon? I don't know if you have a bridge of choice.
Oh, absolutely. So there's the Polygon bridge, and that's from ETH. But if anything else, there's AnySwap. There's AnySwap. There's Bogged, and then there's another one. AnySwap I forget what it's called, but I have it saved on my computer, so I just pull it up. And then, but there's AnySwap went and became something else, and I forgot what it is. I think, multi-chain. That's what it is. It's multi-chain. So multi-chain is a really good one, and it usually only takes 5 minutes or something like that. But you can also, the easiest way is to just, take it directly from the exchange and transfer it in. Obviously, that's the easiest way.
Yeah, that's what I usually do is I just, a lot of my funds are sitting on like MEXC exchange or something like that. And so then I just sell whatever and then buy Matic and then send it over. And then that's what I'll probably do here. I'll probably mint 3 today is kind of my plan. So
no, man, I appreciate, just you bringing me on the channel. And I appreciate the vote of confidence because, it's honestly, it's very humbling, people like you that are minting, and there's a couple of other YouTubers that minted live and stuff like that. And I just, they don't have to do that. And I really appreciate just the fact that they're actually looking at this and they're like, wow, okay, this could be something good. Even Steve from Yield Nodes is minting our NFTs, which is cool. It's really cool. And I was like, thanks, Steve, for the vote of confidence, because he doesn't do that for anybody. And I think it was really awesome of him that he did that for us.
Yeah, that is super cool. That is very cool. And, I've had a lot of people, a lot of people been bit by DeFi, and so I appreciate something like this where Again, we're not looking for those, 1,000,000% APYs that we see around in DeFi. But I think we're to the point where we prefer the lower manageable returns rather than the high where it's,
Yep.
you're never going to actually get it. So,
Yep. And the
um,
thing is like, I think a lot of people are going to see like, why weren't we just doing this like this before, right? Where we've been fed this big lie where it's like, oh, you can make 1,000% by next year, but really we could make 1,000% a year if you do it right. But it takes 5 years, 10 years to get there, right? And if you build it properly, then it's sustainable, it's scalable, and it's there forever, right? And man, I really hope this changes the space. I really do.
yeah, actually, one thought that just came to mind. This used to be how DeFi was
Yeah.
things like this. This is
Mhm.
how people, and then we had kind of this tangent of these super high return
Yeah.
things that worked while we were in a bull market, but then now that new money's not coming in, we don't have those. Do you have any thoughts on, are you going to change direction if a bull market comes back and there's, new shiny objects? Or are you just you're sticking with AVAX, Phantom, Ethereum, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we're building the core position on all of the gold standards, right? And then if the bull market does come back, like we're still going to put a little bit of our discretionary funds, like, maybe 15% or something. Like maybe we'll pick up some pocket network nodes and stuff like that. And even with that, pocket is like, it's really risky in my opinion, but in the opinions of most people, they'd say that's not risky at all. Like that's not a big deal. So at the end of the day, the core position will be built, so we will be able to take more chances with the 45% income and then try to bump those ROIs up a little bit, and then help us keep building that core position more, right? Because the more income you bring in, the more you can, the less you actually have to delegate to higher risk positions, but that those higher risk positions bring you in more money that you can actually put into your core position. So yeah, I'd like to stay more around the core position, but obviously take some very calculated risks to get us there faster, right? Especially in a bull run. Absolutely. Because you're right. There's going to be, what's going to be the next flux? What's going to be the next, AVAX, right? If you can find that, man, and you only put 5% of your portfolio or 2% of your portfolio in it, but at 20X's, oh man, it's life changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey Drew, I appreciate you hopping on here today. Again, I'm going to post one more time the link to the Mint page,
Beautiful.
and on your way out, audience, if you could hit the like button, that would be great. Even if you're watching this as a replay, and I always appreciate the audience. We couldn't do AMAs unless we couldn't be YouTubers, right? Unless we had an audience. So
Exactly.
always appreciate you guys, and yeah, thanks Drew for hopping on. Appreciate spending some time with you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, man. It was great to meet you. Obviously, have fun with your family, your beautiful family. I know you're traveling. I appreciate the fact that you got on here. I know it's early for you too, so thank you so much.
No worries, man. Had a good time. So
All right.
we'll
Have a
talk to
wonderful
everybody
rest of your
later.
day. All right.
Thank you.